Every few decades, the world collapses, markets burn, savings vanish, millions lose jobs, and yet, the same people always walk away richer. We're told it's just the cycle of the economy, unpredictable, unstoppable, natural. But what if it isn't? What if every recession is engineered? What if behind every crash lies a formula perfected over centuries to drain wealth from the many and concentrate it in the hands of a few? To understand this formula, we need to go back not to 2008, not even in 1929, but to the late 17th century, when the first central banks were born. In 1694, the Bank of England was established. Its founders discovered a powerful secret: control credit and you control nations. Money was no longer gold or silver, it was paper, backed by promises. And those promises could be expanded or contracted at will. When credit expanded, economies boomed. And it was pulled back, markets crashed. It was the first cycle of artificial prosperity, followed by engineered scarcity. Over the centuries, this model spread from London to Paris, from New York to every major capital. The formula had been written: create credit, gives inflate, gives withdraw, gives acquire assets at discount, gives repeat. Fast forward to the early 20th century. Industrial growth was exploding. New wealth was being created. But the old financial elite, the families behind major banks and trusts, feared losing control. In 1913, a small group of bankers met secretly on Jekyll Island, off the coast of Georgia. From that meeting emerged the Federal Reserve System, a central bank that would become the most powerful private institution on Earth. With the Fed's creation, the formula gained a modern engine. Now, money could be created out of thin air and just as easily destroyed. The Fed would stabilize the economy, but its tools, interest rates, open market operations, and reserve requirements could also manipulate it. Booms could be inflated on command. Busts could be triggered with a single policy decision. And in both cases, the outcome was the same: debt grows, wealth concentrates. The cycle deepens. Then came 1929, the grand rehearsal of the formula in full swing. Throughout the 1920s, credit was easy. The Federal Reserve flooded markets with cheap money, fueling a speculative frenzy. Stock prices soared 400%. Ordinary citizens borrowed to invest. Then, in 1929, the Fed quietly tightened credit. Within months, the market collapsed. Fortunes evaporated overnight. Banks failed. But who bought up the bankrupt assets? The very financial institutions that had triggered the crisis. They acquired businesses, land, and property for pennies on the dollar. It was the perfect storm and the perfect extraction. A manufactured crash disguised as an economic accident. The Great Depression led directly to World War II. Global chaos reset economies and wiped out debt. But also justified massive government borrowing. Central banks financed the war. Nations printed money. Debt exploded. By the time peace returned, a new order was born: the Bretton Woods system. Under this system, the US dollar was pegged to gold, and every other currency pegged to the dollar. It seemed stable. But behind the curtain, the formula evolved again. The dollar became the new lever of control. Foreign nations borrowed in dollars, America printed freely. And as global trade expanded, so did global debt. In 1971, President Nixon ended the gold standard entirely. Money was now just numbers, faith-based, infinite, and entirely controllable. With that single decision, the formula became unstoppable. Every recession from that moment onward could be triggered and monetized by those who controlled credit creation. Since 1971, the world has lived through a pattern so precise it's almost mathematical. Expansion gives speculation, gives tightening, gives collapse, gives bailout. In 1987, the stock market crashed 22% in one day, Black Monday. The Fed responded with bailouts, reinforcing moral hazard. In 2000, the dot-com bubble burst. Cheap credit had inflated internet startups far beyond value. When it popped, billions vanished. Then came 2008, the masterpiece of manipulation. Banks created a global housing bubble through synthetic debt products. When it crashed, governments printed trillions to save the system. But who did they save? The banks, not the homeowners, not the workers. The same elite that caused the collapse received the rescue. The formula was no longer hidden, it was televised. Every major economic collapse in modern history follows the same invisible script. Easy money and low rates create a boom. Debt skyrockets, inflating prices. Rates rise suddenly, credit dries up. Markets collapse, and assets transfer from public to private hands. It's not theory, it's arithmetic. According to the IMF, total global debt surpassed $315 trillion in 2024, more than 3 times the size of the world economy. Meanwhile, 1% of humanity controls nearly half of global wealth. And yet, when the next crisis hits, as it always does, we'll be told again that no one could have seen it coming. But maybe they did. Maybe they designed it. Every attempt to fix the system has only made it stronger for those who built it. Quantitative easing, zero interest rates, and now central bank digital currencies. Each solution increases dependency on the same institutions that caused the problem. And the public trapped in endless debt becomes easier to control. This isn't capitalism, it's managed scarcity. A formula refined not for stability, but for predictable chaos, because chaos is profitable. Right now, new ingredients are being added to the formula. Y threatens millions of jobs. Housing costs are higher than ever. Nations are drowning in debt while central banks test digital currencies, programmable money that can expire, restrict or monitor your spending. History doesn't just rhyme, it repeats, because someone keeps pressing replay. So what have we learned? Takeaway number 1. Recessions aren't random. They're engineered outcomes of a debt-based system that must collapse to survive. Takeaway number 2. Central banking was designed to privatize profit and socialize loss. Every crisis transfers power upward. Takeaway number 3. True stability will never come from printing money, but from redistributing control over how money is created. And here's the warning. The next recession won't just take jobs or savings. It may take privacy itself. When money goes digital, every transaction will be traceable, taxable, and if necessary, terminable. The formula is hidden in plain sight. Once you see it, you can never unsee it. If you want to understand how this system really works and what comes next, don't stop here. Explore. Question. Follow the trail of debt, and it will lead you to the truth. Because the next crash isn't coming by accident. It's already on the calendar.